From coast to coast, members of First Nations and their supporters sent a clear message today. Their quest for change is far from over. There were protests in dozens of cities and towns today, blocking bridges, slowing traffic, and stalling rail lines. Mike Le Couteur has more on the protests and the message they're intended to send.
Protests that began peacefully quickly turned tense, and one motorist near Edmonton was clearly fed up of the blockade. Demonstrators threw themselves on the hood, hoping to stop the vehicle. It was one of the few flare-ups in a countrywide day of action. The Ambassador Bridge, Canada's economic artery with the United States, blocked for hours today. Aboriginal demonstrators took over the roadway, hoping to prove to Canadians, despite positive meetings with the government, they're not done fighting.
The Grand Chief of Manitoba says we can cripple this country. And as a Native person, I am willing and more than able to do it.
That sentiment moved some in Winnipeg to block a rail line. An elder lay on the tracks, hoping to prove a point. A court injunction forced him to move. These acts were minor disruptions, but enough to get the government's attention and draw this warning from the finance minister.
But these are still relatively small, modest growth numbers, so we need to try to avoid disturbances in the Canadian economy.
Other disturbances were held today, from this one in downtown Toronto to marches in Miramichi and Calgary. In Ottawa, a traditional circle dance in the heart of downtown stopped traffic.
We have to do this to prove a point because they're not listening to us in the building, in the government building.
But that message was lost on Olivier Cullen, who was stuck in traffic with a screaming 5-month-old.
They need a clear line, they need a vision, they need an objective. And they need to let my baby get home so he can go to sleep because he's crying in the backseat.
Still, the Assembly of First Nations believes Canadians are getting the message that Aboriginals will no longer remain idle, while they say laws are being passed which violate their treaty rights. And Roger Augustine believes it could spur a much larger movement.
Idle No More is a perfect example of what could be done, when you wake up the people.
Native leaders feel the protests have been so effective, they're planning more for the end of the month. Mike Le Couteur, Global News, Ottawa.